So, welcome everyone to our Sisters in Spirit core session, which happens every Saturday, normally 4 to 6 p.m. And I also want to welcome some of the participants from Shabdhun Lagi, Wound of the Word, which Shabnam facilitates and SIS organizes. So it's a great pleasure for me to have Shweta-Tara Katti as our guest today, who's here to share with us. I've had the fortune of knowing Shweta for a few years now, and also Kranti, the NGO, as well as one of the founders of Kranti, Robin, who's also a student of Geshe Dorji Damdol. And Shweta and I think, first met at Deer Park at a retreat by Geshala, our dear Geshala, who connects many of us here. And I don't want to maybe run through Shweta's bio again because a lot of the details we already sent to you. And Shweta is going to give a very informal, personal, life sharing, very experiential, lived experience. Uh, she's going to chat with us. And I just want to mention that Shweta has the great fortune to be at the Lama Tsongkhapa Institute in Italy right now. Shweta is studying contemplative psychology and Buddhist philosophy over there and is almost due to finish in maybe another year or so.
Year and a half. Yeah.
Another year and a half. So, yeah, Shweta, thank you so much and welcome. So, over to you. And if any of you who can keep their videos on, please do. It's always helpful for the speaker who's presenting. And then I'm sure Shweta would love more interaction and for people to ask questions. So, thank you so much. So, sorry, just briefly before I really hand over. I had mentioned that at the Sisters in Spirit core group, we've been following a certain a thematic of practice called sustainable compassion training, which was developed by Lama John McCransky. He's a student of Choki Nyingma Rinpoche and a professor of comparative religion at Boston University. And it's a much more secularized, Dzogchen influenced form of bodhicitta practice, of developing bodhicitta. And it's in three phases. You have a receptive mode where you receive love and compassion, you experience it, you experience yourself as being embedded in a field of love and compassion, which you extend then outwards to others. You deepen that love and compassion by overcoming the obstacles you may face in experiencing this kind of love and compassion. And then you start to include others. So widen the circle of your love and compassion. And it's in this context, today is our first session on the inclusive mode, that I have requested Shweta to come and do her sharing. So thank you. Hi, Veronica. Welcome.
Hi, Tej.
Thank you, Tej, for inviting me. I'm sorry. I'm no expert at anything, but I do have a story, and I would like to share. And I hope there is some resonance and something that you can take away from it, or even if not, some stories from the red light districts. So I think, as it was written in the bio, I grew up in the second largest red light district of Asia, Kamathipura, but actually a very small red light district adjacent to it called Pila House. It was actually called Playhouse, but because people didn't pronounce it properly, it was called Pila House. And yeah, that's where my journey began. That's where I was born, and that's where I was raised for 60. I lived for 16 to 17 years of my life. And yeah, it's been a long journey, and I have no idea how I've come here. But yeah, so I'll take you through it, and maybe I can figure that out. So, I mean, I want to ask a question and please respond. What do you think? And be honest, like, not what you're supposed to say, but what do you feel, or what do you think when I say the word red light district or sex work? What comes to your mind? Yeah.
Exploitation.
Okay.
And cruelty also.
Okay. Anyone else?
Violence.
Okay.
Oppression.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone?
Precarity. Precarious life.
I don't know what that word means.
Very unstable, very, very vulnerable.
Endless also.
Okay.
Sadness.
Okay. Thank you.
Support.
Okay.
Power.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for sharing. And as you would see, like there were a lot in the beginning, there was a lot of cruelty, oppression, and violence and sadness, and of course also power. So some of you do also feel that, but often this is what is portrayed in many of the information platforms that we have. And but when I think of red light district, I think of mothers. I think of the love. I may just start crying. It happens every time, so don't be bothered. But the love that I experienced as a child when I grew up. And of course, these are the truth as well. There is violence, there is oppression, there is sadness, and there is some sort, there is cruelty at some level. But that's not the only truth about my community. And I often feel like that hasn't been expressed or represented enough. And with Kranti being in the picture, it has been for a long time, for some years now, and we keep bringing it up because this is what we feel close to, and we feel this is we want to tell the truth. And of course, we don't want to try to paint a very perfect picture. It was not perfect. I experienced abuse. I was depressed as a child, but I think even I didn't see the goodness of my community when I was growing up. And it was only for Kranti that I saw it, because growing up, I was so conditioned to believe that how horrible my community was, and how like it was a garbage. And every time I mean it's a small, it's a long lane, and it has like it is a long street, and it has lanes across it, and but if you go beyond it, there's this mainstream good people, and sorry, my mother is here and she's distracting me. And so anyway, so I start with where I grew up, and actually my mother's here with Bani Di, and it was my mother's mother, my grandmother, who was married to a man in Kamathipura, who was, I think his family owned brothels or something, but he died because of he was a drug addict and alcoholic, and he didn't leave anything for my grandmother, and she was pregnant with my mother at that time, and she was my grandmother's left with nothing. So she started working as domestic worker in the red light district, in the brothels, and that's where my mother also grew up. And yeah, that's where my family's journey in the red light district started. And even then, I think they did not have the support in the beginning, but then because of the community, of course, like you're always taken care by each other. Like there are women who would help, like there are these people in the community who don't accept you and who want to push you away. So there was where my grandmother used to work, because I was born to my mother and they didn't like me having around, so they kicked my family out of their brothel, and they told other people to not take them in. But my mother told me the story that there was a very kind brothel owner who said, no, you come to me, even after that the other brothel owner had said, like, don't take them in, and made sure that she gave space for my grandmother, for my mother, and for me. And and also work. So my grandmother started working as a domestic worker there. And I think that's, the rest of the stories of my mother, so I won't go there. But then as I remember, we grew up in a brothel, and we lived in a loft. So you have like this narrow room, and you have like a loft above, like an attic. And in the brothel, you have like beds next, adjacent to each other. So there's no like furniture or anything except the beds, because they are the most useful ones. You make money out of it. So anyway, so and then there was a loft, and I think that's my first memory of it. I don't remember how old I was. But my mother at that time had already 2 other children. So we are 3 children. And my grandmother had passed away already. But then my mother had to work since our stepfather had joined. I don't know when he came to live with us, but he was an alcoholic and he didn't work. So, I mean, there was no financial support from him, rather more abuse and violence coming from him. But then it was a woman called Amma. We called her Amma. Amma means mother. Her name is Gori. And she was a Nepali woman trafficked from Nepal at a very early age. She barely talked about her when I mean, of course, the women are mothers. They don't tell their stories to their daughters. No, it's very personal. So they didn't want to, when we would ask, very few people would tell because it was difficult for them. And of course, it was personal. But then she did say she was trafficked from Nepal and she came in search of job. And it was her who raised my youngest daughter, not my daughter, my mother's, my sister, my youngest sister. And because my mother would go to factory work in the morning at 8 a.m. and she would come back in the 7 p.m. and we were very young. And I mean, we didn't have any family to look after us, but it was the women who lived in the brothel. I mean, and they were Nepali, like, talk about nationality and separation in that context. But, like in the red light district, there was no separation. There were Bangladeshi women, there were Nepali women, there were women from south of India. So there was a lot of culture in that sense and a lot of support, because I remember I spent a lot of my time in the brothels because they had TV. And my mom, of course, didn't want me to go there not because that it wasn't safe, because of course she trusted women because they were the ones looking after us when she was away for this entire day, because they would braid our hair, make us bathe and get ready to school and send us away. I even remember my youngest sister, Shraddha, she hated going to school. We were going to, like, the school was right next to, but it was in the better neighborhoods, but it was like 2 minutes away. So we would have like a vendor come in every day. He would come with his like Khariwala uncle. He would come with his like this trunk, and he would every morning, and but like at the same, I don't know, for some reason, it would be the same time when she had to go to school. And she would be crying, and like everyone's trying to get her out, and my mother would be at work, of course. So like Amma and Sapna auntie, they would try to get her to school, getting dressed, and like they would, of course, also be a bit violent sometimes. But then this uncle would come and leave his trunk on right next to the brothel, and he would take her, like carry her on his shoulder, no matter how much she's yelling or crying, and he would go there to drop her off at the school. And we had no connection to him. And even to this day, like I remember this very well, and he would give her extra butter always. I for some reason, she was his favorite. Of course, he was biased, but and I've seen this happening a lot. Like, every time there's a new dish cooked in a household, I mean, it's not that we had like a separate compartment, like an apartmental room, but like everyone's living in the same house. So every Sunday there's a dish made it goes across, like everyone gives it a little bit, or oh, please try this, like, and that sense of community has always been like, it has been there with me, and it's taken me through my life. And sometimes I still wonder, how am I able to make connection with people? And I think it is because of this, that I saw women being very open to each other. Of course there was struggle, of course there was violence, of course there were men who would come in and be violent to the women, but then the women would come together and of course take him out. But and at the same thing happened with my family. Like my stepfather was a drunkard and an abusive alcoholic, and every night I remember I was so scared to come back. My school was from 12:30 to 5 p.m. in the evening, and from 5 to 7:30 we went to like a local community organization where we would do like our tutoring. And every night I remember I felt horrible coming back, because I knew there would be some drama or the other. And he'd also abused me at some point, so I was shit scared of him. But then and now every now and then there would be huge drama, and he would beat all of us up and my mother up. And the only sort of support my mother relied upon was the women. And the auntie log were always there, like, to hold my father back and to make sure that we were safe and to make sure that we were taken care of. So every time that the media shows the weak parts of, like, the barred down image of sex worker, like with no power, it just makes me sad, because it's not the truth. Yes, of course, because of their circumstances, they're limited to certain opportunities in life, certain freedom in life, but that does not make them weak. That does not make them powerless. And right now, things are changing a lot in the red light district. So there are women who are taking charge and they are doing sex work on their own, and they're like renting beds to do sex work, but they're not, like, it's changing a lot because there is a very less brothel owner and sex worker relationship. These are the stories I remember. So to tell fun stories, there was one time I was standing in front of the mirror in a brothel where my grandmother was a domestic worker. And I don't know how old I was, but I would watch a lot of Bollywood movies because that was their pastime during afternoons. So I would spend a lot of time with them. And then I'm standing in front of the mirror. I don't know where it came from. And I said the word sexy. And it was not a good word to say. Somebody heard it and told my mother. And my mother beat the shit out of me. I was so scared after that. I probably never used it until, of course, I was an adult. But, because the view is also like, they have no sense of respect, or like, they're always using bad words and they're cursing each other. That's the view is also shown in Bollywood movies, but that's not true. They're constantly conditioning us to be a good woman as well. I mean, as they were conditioned as children, and they were also conditioning us to have no boyfriends, do not look at guys, and do not use curse words. So these images really disturb me because, it's something very different than what I experienced as a child. They're very protective, because when I would go into and I have been abused by the customers as well, but it was not, they didn't know it. But every time a customer would walk in, they would make sure I left the brothel and went back to my either safe space or like wherever there are not customers. And the life was very fluid. Like the doors were always open. Of course, at night they would close it because they didn't want women to run away, because they still had authority of control over women. And so they didn't want to, so at night they would lock it, but during the day it was very open. There was life in the chawl, and I mean, it was a 2-story building, and they had like a kya bolte usko? Like a chawl, like ghar ke samne, the space between in front of your house. Corridor. Yeah, there was like, people are cooking outside on a stove, and children are playing. We're playing carom board. So So the images are a bit disturbing when seen in movies or media representation, or, you know, a lot of the times also by organizations working within the red light district. And something that I have learned is also that, I mean, these are the moments I now cherish and I feel so happy about. But at that time, I was depressed. I was unhappy. I was still scared. Why? Because this is what happens. You're constantly told a story, a narrative, even and about yourself, and you start believing it. And I did believe the stories about me that others told me. So the community also does believe the stories that others tell them. Although there is power, there is no constructive structure. Like in Sonagachi, I've never visited, but there is an organization called Darbar, and they have somehow managed to develop this sex workers union. And there is one it's called Sangram in south of Maharashtra. They've managed to, so the empowerment, the power is there, but in Bombay, it hasn't been able to, they haven't tapped into it. So this constant stigmatization, this constant oppression has made them believe that I tell this by experience, because most of my life, I believed I was worthless. I've carried shame. I have carried guilt. I've carried selflessness, not selflessness, self-worth, lack of self-worth. And I think now I can believe like it manifests in its own way when you're constantly told that, when there is no support. Imagine like women there have no family, no sense of, I mean, they, in the community, it becomes a space of belonging. But even then, like we all want that support from family and from, you know, partners, from like familiarity that we had before. But they're like, even after not having that support, they really support each other. And I'm not saying there are not women who traffic women in there. There are women. There are women who also force their daughters to do sex work. But I think we only pick up these narratives and we tell them constantly, and that's all that you hear. But you do not hear other narratives. There's a woman called Zarina who currently works at Kranti, and I mean, she's an inspiration for me, because her own family is a mess in a way. She struggles with her son. She struggles to build a relationship with her daughter. But her constant concern is safety of other women and of other children. And she would do anything. And at some point she also said, and I do not know by first-hand experience, but Robin told us that she said she would she would work many hours as a sex worker to be able to earn money to cremate the bodies of abandoned sex worker women on the street. I mean, that is a whole another, I mean, even I don't have that strength. What I find problematic is, of course, as daughters of sex workers, you're adored. Oh my God, you guys grew up there. And then you're really like, you know, glorified in a way. You came out of this struggle. But we don't have that. We don't look at women who are there, who are doing the same thing. They have to go through constant stigmatization. They have to face a lot of oppression on a daily basis. So for me, I mean, yeah, like, I think the strength there is so much, the compassion, the love, and they have set me on a journey. I can never express my gratitude into words, because, sorry. And sometimes it hurts me because I'm not able to do anything for them, because every opportunity I have received is because of them. before I was denied, of course, education opportunities before Kranti. But the moment we changed the perspective, the opportunity, I became the first girl from the red light district. Why? I mean, only because we used it like that in a system where they would support it. And every opportunity thus far I've received is because of them, because of their love and because of their compassion. Even now when we go back, they welcome us with open arms. And it's, for me, it's difficult to say, because even during the times of COVID, they were stigmatized again because HIV and having being carriers of the disease, they're already oppressed and stigmatized. Then again, because of the COVID, the community, the external community again marginalized them, shoved them off, because they would be the reason that the community, I mean, that was their perception. So it was very difficult for me to see that. And anyway, that's my story of the community. And I will share about the compassion that I have found through my journey. In 2011, I came to Kranti. It's almost a decade now. It's crazy. Anyway, because I studied most of my life in a municipality school in Marathi, and so I didn't speak any English. So in 11th and 12th, I struggled in going to school because I was bullied in my school for being dark-skinned and coming from a red light district. Like, there was a lot of bullying. And so I was scared to go into college classroom, because, you know, like now there are much more, and especially it was a women's college, SNDT. And I was very scared to be picked out in school and being made, you know, asked questions and not being able to answer. And especially it was in English. So I was very scared, but I did always want to become something, because I knew I didn't want to be stuck in this system. So at that time, I reached out to one of the community organizations of the red light district, and they put me in touch with Kranti. And I think it had only been a year that they had begun. And I have no idea how I made that decision, because every time I've been away from my mother, I've cried a lot. And I did not know what, but because I knew, like, I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't have that support right now. I don't know, something was going on, like universal energy, like trying to shift, I don't know. And then I came to Kranti in 2011, and I passed my 12th. And because I was reading a lot of Harry Potter books, I got a very bad grade. And so of course, I mean, coming from non-speaking school and getting into good, because Kranti believed in good quality education and quality opportunities, no matter in what areas of life. So, I mean, of course, Robin had a vision of giving and creating change makers within the community, so we can go back and change the community ourselves. And it was something I was not introduced to before, because in the organizations that were already working in the community, they were like sitting there for 20-30 years, but there was a very bare, and I don't want to judge them, because I know they have good intentions, but probably not the right approach. So, but with Kranti, more innovation, more opportunity. So when I passed 12th, Robin said that maybe we should apply to American universities, because you're not going to get good education in India. And as a daydreamer, back as a child, because I wanted to get away from my reality, I don't know, because of Bollywood movies, I would daydream of going to America, although I have no idea what America was, like a country or a continent or a city. But because you're introduced to this abroad idea in Bollywood, I had this grand dreams in my daydream. So when she said that, I was like, what? Is that even possible? And I knew, I mean, I was young, so of course I was still being able to learn English while talking to her, or because we would have young interns and we would be able to communicate. It was a very, very messy apartment that we lived in, so it was a very home-like. And of course, Kranti opened me up to a lot of opportunities, a lot of understanding of myself, and of accepting of my skin color, accepting of my community. I mean, all of the positive things that I see in me now, or even if in my own community, I could only do because Kranti introduced me to it. Not that they were not there, but the perspective changed, because the stories that we were told were of being a victim, of being sad, of being of never of self-worth or self-power. That was not introduced. So when Kranti did that, I mean, of course it didn't happen like that. I think that journey is still going on for me, but it opened up a lot more doors and of acceptance and of many opportunities. So I did a lot of traveling. I went to the US to study, and then, oh my God, I was scared. And then I was there for a year and a half, but then I went through incredible anxiety. And I mean, I knew very little English, but I could have made it if I trusted in myself. But because I was so anxious all the time, I was so scared, and I did not believe in myself, I dropped out in 2014. And I mean, in during these times, I received this UN award, or, I was also named 2520 Newsweek, something like that. And then, I mean, I never felt it, I think, and it only made me feel bad, because they were trying to portray this girl coming from red light district being like, empowerment for so many women, but I didn't feel it. I carried the feeling of guilt and worthlessness with me. And I felt even bad, like, and I felt like I was a failure, because I became this girl who, I mean, I could, if I don't know, like, I could have, for me, it was a lot of pressure, because as the first girl, I had to succeed, but then I didn't in that area of my life. And then that, I think that carried for a couple of years for me. And then in 2014, I dropped out. In 2015, I did another program called Semester at Sea, through which I got to travel a lot and also take educational programs on the ship. But then I came back to India, and with Kranti, we did a lot of theater work as well. So with Jaya, who was our theater facilitator, we did a tour in the US called Lal Bati Express, and we've done it in multiple countries after that. And I think all of this was taking me through a journey, but I wasn't realizing at that point. And in 2015, I started working at an organization called Ashoka, but I was interning. Then I finished that, and then I came to Kranti. I started working with Robin, who is the co-founder of Kranti. And then, I mean, I was carrying all of this. I didn't know. I mean, I was carrying this guilt. I was feeling this. I was ashamed of myself and lack of worth. And I think I channelized that into putting all of my worth, putting all of my value into Robin, the founder of Kranti. So for me, if she was happy about me, I was happy. And if she was not, and it was not that she was not, but I would always look at myself as being less, as being not enough. And I think through these years, because as a child, I did not get a lot of approval. I had to always seek it. And so that became a pattern. And at some point, I think my nutrition wasn't food. My nutrition was approval. And that would keep me going. But I wasn't taking care of myself. As a child, I had gotten a disease called TB. It was not a lungs TB. It was in a lymph node in my thigh. But I didn't take care. I didn't take proper medication because it has a lot of side effects, and I wasn't able to take it because growing up in the red light district, we didn't really have proper nutrition. We did have really good, tasty food, but that didn't translate to good nutrition. So I didn't have supportive nutrition. So I would stop taking them on my own. I would not tell anyone. So I did that couple of times. Like I started the medication, but I didn't take it. I started it again. I didn't take it first. And then after that, I gave up. And others also gave up on me because they were like, she's never going to, finish it unless she really wants to. And that caught up at some point because I was working a lot for Robin and Kranti. And because that was my self-worth. That was where I felt like I was good enough. I was something. That's where I was driving it all from. And then in 2017, we were going on a tour to the UK with the play called Lal Batti Express 2. And my back started hurting really bad. And I still didn't take, and I had also became kya bolte usko? Allergic to painkillers. So I wouldn't be able to take painkillers at some, I don't know why. Like when I started getting pain, that's when I started developing, I developed allergy to painkillers. And then that meant I had to experience it. And then we went to the tour. So we had to travel constantly with all our baggage. And we had to perform, we had to see people and talk, and I had grown very thin, and of course I was helping organizing the stuff, so I had to also work. But then I was not able to fulfill my work. Like I wasn't able to do what I was supposed to do. So came worthlessness again. Like I'm not good enough. I cannot do anything properly. There were times where I couldn't, like, my mom had to take care, because my mom was also a staff at Kranti. She also came on the tour and she had to take care of me. And at night, I wouldn't be able to sleep. There were times when because my left leg stopped working, like it was almost paralyzed, not really paralyzed, but like I had to drag it. And there were 3 times I fell and I felt horrible. One time during the performance where I couldn't get up and I just tripped. One time on the street where I just fell while walking. And there was one time because when somebody gave a shrug, I just fell. And I felt so weak within me. I felt like I had no power. I felt like everything was lost because my entire worth was dependent on my work or how others treated me. And now others were treating me as powerless, of course, because I needed support. So of course they were trying to support me. Then I felt horrible about it. And then that continued. And then when I came back to India, I found out that it is TB and that it has grown. And then I had to take medications. And during that time, something happened that crushed my ego even further. Because I grew distant from Robin, and since my worth was in her, my worth was crushed. And there was distance between us, and I felt horrible because I felt I'm no one now, and I have nothing to live for. Like, who am I? And I felt horrible about myself. So I went through a lot of emotional pain, and at the same time, I was going through a lot of physical pain. So of course I was, and I'd been introduced to Buddhism by Robin and by Kranti even before, but I wasn't actively practicing it on daily basis. But then that's when my back kind of broke, because TB had gone to my lower back, and it had damaged some parts of my backbone, lower backbone, and then literally it was a crushing of my ego, and it was crushing of my back, and it's a metaphor for both, like, because both happened at the same time. And at that time I was going through a lot of pain, but I think some support was also coming in some ways. I went to retreat in Tushita. I did a healing destructive emotions or something like that. And that I don't know, for some reason that changed me at that time, because my teacher, because after you take refuge into Buddhism, you receive a name, like a Buddhist name, but it's mostly Tibetan name. And when it was my turn to get a name, I came to him and I was, okay, I also want a name. And then he was like, if I give you a name, you have to use it as your first name. Then I was like, what? Why me? Everyone else got theirs. Why do you have to pick me for this one? And then I thought about it. And my surname Katti comes from my stepfather's side. And I wasn't always happy about it. And everyone called me by that name, Katti. Very few people called me by my first name, Shweta. So then that really started, and I was crying a lot when he said it. And I started thinking about name, like, what does it mean? Like, and I thought, for whatever reason, I thought I will take it up. But I didn't know. I thought maybe I will get some weird Tibetan name. But for whatever reason, I decided, okay, I go for it anyway. But then he looked me into my eyes, and I was just like, I mean, he was teasing me in a way, and I was just like, something's going on. And then he just said, and he looked me into my eyes, and he said, you could think about it overnight, And I was like, no, at that point, I think I needed desperate change. I needed something to look forward to. And then he gave me the name Tara. And I was like, my God. I mean, he could have given me any name, and he gave me the name Tara. And for me, that meant a lot. And that gave me strength to go on. And that day, there was a lot of rain. There was like crazy environment at that time, a lot of wind, a lot of rain. And for me, that was just like, I mean, I couldn't believe he did something. I don't know if even he knew what he did. And I think that changed a lot for me. And the day after that, next couple of days, because I had to come back to Bombay, and I didn't spend a penny, and I reached home. And it was as if the whole universe was supporting me through this journey. And I felt that support at that time. And I think that's when things changed for me, because then I started supporting myself. I took the power of the name Tara, because of course I was reading about it. And of course it is a deity in Tibetan Buddhism, Tara. And she's a lot of things. She's a wrathful one, she's a compassionate one. So, all the aspects of a woman. So she really, I think through this time, she really supported me at that time. And then that's when, after a couple of months, I needed to think about going back to school. Because my therapist was like, many of you have met her probably, Sadhya Raval. She forced me. She's a wrathful deity. She said, you're not going anywhere. You're going to go finish your program, because I had all these great ideas of starting a community center in the red light district, or working with Kranti, doing all of these things. But she knew my issue. So she was like, you're not doing any of this. You're going back to school. Find a program, finish your degree, then we talk about your future. And then of course, then I wanted to see if I could find some options in India, because we didn't have funds for the US. But then I was also still looking abroad to see if I could find some scholarship. Nothing was working out. And then Robin goes to a retreat in Tushita, and then she meets this person who tells her about this program in Italy, which is a basic program for Buddhism. And it's called basic program, but it's not basic at all. But anyway, so she comes back home, she tells about it, and I get very excited because of course I feel connected to Buddhism, I feel connected to the Buddha. And then so I when then we write to this person here, and then they say, okay, yeah, we can do free tuition. Then we still, I mean, it was very less than what I would have to spend going into a proper university. So we said, okay, we will try to fundraise it. But then once I emailed them, we haven't been able to find funds. And she says, don't worry, we've already found a donor for you, and that person will take care of all your expenses throughout the year. And then late next year, we think about it. Don't worry, and just come. And for me, that was just again a glimpse of hope. And of course, I came here in 2018, and somehow I knew this woman was my sponsor. So I didn't say anything to her, but she would constantly tell me, I don't know why, but I knew you had to be here. And then I knew I had to be there. So I knew I had to be here as well. And when I came here, of course, we went, the first subject we studied was Lorig. And the first couple of teachings were like, what am I doing here? I had no idea what they were talking about. Object, possessor, object. I was like, well, I do not even understand what they mean. And I was so scared in the beginning, but then slowly things changed. And of course we had support, we had tutors and stuff. And then and I was, throughout this, I was taking TB medicine. The semester ended, I came back to India in 2018 December, and then in January I had to get checked up, so because my period of medicine was going to end, and I thought maybe now I recover. Then when I go to the doctor, and then they do a couple of tests to find out if I'm done, they say I have MDR TB, which is multi-drug resistant TB. So if you've started medication and you've not finished, you develop the TB develops resistance towards the drugs that you've been taking, and which was life-threatening as well. So which meant I had to take like very harsh medications for next 2 years, and had to take injections for 5 days a week, every single day, on each side of my buttocks. But then I got really scared because I couldn't come back here and study, and I had to be there at least the first 6 or 7 or 8 months of it to take the medication. And during that time, I don't know, these things probably seem random, but they took me through a journey of, at this time I felt even further down in my self-worth, or like feeling power, or feeling any kind of support. I felt like now there is no hope for me. And at that time, Kranti was again traveling to Europe to do the tour of Lal Bati Express, and and Robin had decided to go on Santiago de Compostela Camino, the Camino walk, which was 870 70 kilometers, and we were going to walk it. But then I of course was looking forward to the trip, but because of this I was like, maybe I would not be able to go. But then of course Robin, being the stubborn one she is, she made it happen. She was like, we'll find someone who can inject you every day, and you can come back to collect your medication and then come back, join us on the trip. So and then I ended up going on the trip with Kranti, and of course the performances and all of that were done. But then when we started walking the Camino, the first day, and I had to take my injections every day, and it was our theater facilitator who ended up doing it for me. And so the first day I started walking, and everyone started walking. We were looking forward to it. We had our bag. And at some point, I started walking slowly. And I realized I didn't feel burdened. I felt support when I'm walking slowly, when I'm breathing and I'm walking, because there was nature. So of course you're already kind of grounded. And at that time I thought, all my life I've been trying to catch up with a certain pace. All my life I've been trying to become something that I'm not, because I don't accept who I am. And all my life I've been trying to seek approval. So I catch up to seek approval, and I keep going, but I keep losing weight, like little physical weight, and keep losing emotional support within me, because I am completely dependent on the external, the other people or other circumstances. But that day I saw, like, as I was walking, I could feel the support, because I was not trying to catch up. And this disease had helped me, because I knew if I walked faster, I would be exhausted and I would not be able to get through it. So, I mean, this disease that was a negative thing somehow transformed my entire view of myself, because I had to really slow down in my life. I had to really slow down and take one step at a time on every level of my life. Like, I had given up on Kranti's responsibilities, or any kind of responsibilities. I was bedridden for a while. I was not doing anything at all, but had to eat, had to sleep, and that's all. I mean, some work here and there, but not really. At that time, I felt really bad about it. But then as I started walking, as I started going through the Camino, I felt strength, because we had to wake up every day. I had to take a morning injection and then go on a walk. And of course, these heavy side effects weigh on you. Your body goes really low. But then I kept going. And of course, through support, Robin, Kranti, all my sisters were there every single day. Like, if somebody had to carry my backpack, they would. One of the Kranti girls who struggles a lot with mental health, she would stay back to work with me, and she would make sure that I laugh. That was her purpose throughout the journey, that I laugh. She would make the silliest jokes ever, but that was her purpose. Like, her purpose was to make me laugh. And because of this love and support, I walked through it. And of course we finished. And sometimes we cheated. We got a hitch if we got a ride from somewhere because we were tired. But the whole point was, of course, the journey, the lows and the highs of the journey. And we had no money, because we of course we are not, like, we know Robin doesn't come from a wealthy family. All her, whatever she had saved, she had put into Kranti. And we always, and she's a risk taker, so she always starts a journey with like very little money. But then we will speak to people. We had made these cards, we would give people the cards, and they would give us like 50 euros or 5 euros or 10 euros. There was one point, what is this, busking, we were like dancing on the street, on the Camino. I think it was the last day we reached the Camino, we danced. And I think a couple of days after we raised 600 to 700 euros just busking, just dancing crazy Indian moves. Nothing special. And I mean, some of us are good dancers, but some of us are just like faking it. But, you know, people came towards, and we of course had like billboards, not billboards, but like a board, like a cardboard written about Kranti. And we would encourage people to come and have conversation. There would be people coming in, dancing. Even on the walk, people would come in, join with us. And sometimes they would offer us meal, you know. And somehow all of this helped me lay back a little. Like, it's okay. Life is taking care of you in a way, if you let it. And then slowly, and then in 2019 I came, 2020 I came back to Italy, and that's when my my course, I rejoined my course, and of course, during every single day, we would listen so much to Geshe-la, and he would talk to us about our, talking to us about like our afflictions and stuff. Anyway, through all of this, I learned to be compassionate to myself, because constantly I would always try to catch up with others' expectations. But then I realized that was only exhausting me, and that was only draining me. So slowly, and then now I finished my medications, and in 2020 December, and then I've been away from my home for a year and a half, and I feel good. I feel good about myself, and I feel nourished. I feel joy about life. I feel a lot of energy that I want to give back, and I feel love above all, and love for myself more than anything, because I realized if I don't love myself, I don't really love anyone. And unless I am compassionate to myself, I cannot be compassionate to anyone. So this journey really helped me. I mean, yeah. So anyway, that is my story. I know I've taken a lot of time. When it comes to story, I get a bit swayed away. So that was it. And I don't know, I all I wanted for this conversation, that be compassionate to yourself. I know it sounds very, everyone says it these days, but really I think that is all you need to be, not all, but that's the beginning for anything. If we don't, because we talk about bodhicitta and all sentient beings, I'm like, first when I came here, I'm crazy, how could I ever help all sentient beings? But I also wanted to, but this constant thinking, but I had a very mixed idea of helping others. So I was avoiding myself and trying to help others, but that really never worked out, because it's not in sync. Only when I can help myself can I help others. So anyway, this is my life story. This is the story of my compassion. I hope it was, I don't know, I don't want to say entertaining, because it is not entertaining. And anyway, I hope you got something out of it.
Shweta, thank you so much for sharing your story of your journey with compassion and love and community with us. I really, really appreciate. And I'm very sorry, but for some part of your sharing, my internet dropped. But I'm very happy it's back. So I'm back. So some links are missing for me, yeah? I apologize.
Okay,
yeah.
no worries.
And of course, the floor is open for us to, if you want to say something, ask Shweta something more, share, reflect.
But I wanted to say something to Sabnam ji. I'm so inspired, and I'm so grateful to your sessions, because they really do help me come back to myself. And the first session, I needed it, and I was there. It's like how life works out perfectly not at some times. I think it's all the time that it just we don't see it. But that was like that moment again for me. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I was just going to say how much you inspire me. And I've just wept so much listening to you. And I'm also a crybaby. I cry very easily. So you just move me so much with the simplicity of your sharing. And it just made me realize again afresh that some lessons are so simple and we resist them so much. There's such simple lessons that we need to learn, which you are helping us learn. But how complicated we make our lives, how complicated our defense mechanisms are to such a simple, profound lesson that you are sharing with us today. So thank you.
Thank you. It's really, thank you so much, because this is the first time because when I shared my success story before, I'd never believed in it, because it was all reaching Bard College and receiving this scholarship, and I didn't feel connected to. But I think this is the first time when I feel like, I mean, it's still not a success story, but some success in some parts of life. So I think so. You guys are my first audience. I'm just kidding. Anyway, thank you so much for this whole experience.
Shweta, there are some comments in the chat box I'd like to read until somebody also unmutes and shares further. So Luna is saying, thank you so much. I cried and smiled with you, gave me so much strength. So that's Paula Luna, who's in Paris. And then Anuradha Ramesh is saying, thank you for simplicity, for sharing with such honesty and simplicity. And Sonia, who is in Lahore, is saying, your story is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And Sana is also saying, thank you for sharing your inspiring story.
Thank you so much. No, thank you for listening. I think it goes both ways, because it's a process and I'm still going through that process. It's endless. So thank you. Yeah. But if you do ever want to ask me anything, or now or at any time, even if you want to. Yeah.
Shweta, are you able to stay with us a little bit longer, or do you have to leave very soon? Just checking in with you.
I can stay for another 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maria has a question, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Shweta. I was also really moved, and I was also really struck by what you said about, at both times, how the ideas that others have of us affect us. And in the beginning, you talked about the ideas people have of women from the red light district, and how those are sort of, imbibed. And then also later you said, when you had achieved all these things, and you shared your success story, because again, it was what others viewed as success, but that you didn't feel. Sorry, I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm just sort of.
Yeah, I think you are.
Yeah, and that eventually it was like you coming to this point of like self-love, and these things that you sort of experience for yourself, not coming from ideas or opinions of others. That that self-love and that self-experience was what has made you also like feel strong, feel better. And I would love to hear a little bit more, if possible, about you getting to that point of also self-love. I mean, you shared about the walk and your experience through that. And yeah, if there are other things you could share about how you got to this.
Yeah. So during this whole teaching, I would get very bothered, because I mean, when we're studying Buddhism, we're always talking about being compassionate to other people and being loving to other people, and I've always been that, but not in a but it still hasn't been okay, because I've always experienced anxiety and not been okay with it, because it was constantly, again, I'm just trying to become this good person again, that it was just a different narrative now, a different story, where it was good to be good, it was. So but again, it was my therapist, actually. She said, what do you want to become? Who is this person that you want to become? And why do you want to become like that? I think that's what she said. Why is it important that you become like that? Why is it important that you have everything together? Because once I was crying, I was like, I'm trying so hard to do all of it perfectly. I'm trying so hard. She's like, why are you trying so hard? Why? And then that's when I think in my life, I think I do a lot of self-reflection. So in that helps me to see like what am I really meaning when I'm saying things, or what would these things mean. So when she said that, then that's when I realized I was so unhappy with myself. I was rejecting myself all the time. It was no one else but myself. I was judging myself constantly. And that's when I let go of it a little. Like, for example, my daily yoga practice. It was basically non-existent, but in my head, I wanted it to be perfect. Every single day, an hour or 2 hours, I had it to be. And I was so disappointed because I wouldn't be able to get it done. Because I had not energy, or because I was taking medications, I didn't have, sustained energy. And then I said, okay, I take a step back. But then I really checked with myself. I think it happens a lot with my meditation. I check with myself. Why am I not okay with myself? And since in the teachings, we also talk a lot about ego. So I will tell you the metaphor of what I felt of my disease. When my back broke, it was this constraining eye that I was trying to hold. It was so tight that I was trying to hold it, that it actually broke. That's literally what happened to my back. Because I was trying to hold up this image of me, this eye of me, based on others' perception that actually was not me. But because but I didn't have enough energy to sustain it because it was not coming naturally. So that really harmed myself. I really harmed myself, and because of this disease, honestly, I couldn't even continue anymore. So I really had to face it. I really had to face it. What is the truth about me? And then that's when I took a step back and I was like, can I be okay with not being okay? I'm not okay right now. I'm not healthy right now. I'm not perfect right now. I'm not powerful right now. I don't have the strength right now. Can I be okay with that? And I think, and it's still going on, like it only began, like my self-love only began in November. So it's something that I'm discovering, but it has been very fruitful. I can see in myself. I can see. I mean, there's still time where I'm resisting and I'm trying to trying to find, and especially Tibetan Buddhism is so intellectual and my intellectual capacity is very low. So I get like, oh my God, can I ever? I don't think I have any hope in here. But then I'm okay with it. Then constantly what we try to do, it's either this or that. या तो होना ही है अच्छा, या तो we get very attached to it, या तो we averse it. So we don't even see what is there, but we're already rejecting it. I didn't even know who I was, but I was already rejecting it. I already was like, this is not enough. I want something else, and now when I'm seeing what it's kind of beautiful. I don't know how to, it's really nice. It's an awareness that comes into my body that helps me. And every time I say, okay, I become relaxed. Every time I say, and these are small things I do every day. When I'm, because of course the thoughts, they keep going, no matter how much you self-work you do. Every morning I wake up with I was like, what is going on? Then I was like, okay, it's okay. I could take a step back and I breathe. And I realized there's not, often I think we're so, and this is what Buddha said, we have so many expectations from our lives. And I think we need to check why, what do those expectations have in value? What will that make me? Because I wanted to fulfill these expectations. I wanted to become this. But really, like my therapist would say, like, what would happen when you become that? What would happen? And then I was like, I'll be happy. She's like, you won't be happy. Then you will want more. Then you'll want more. If you're not happy right now, I mean, it's everyone says this, but again, this is the truth. We suffer because we have so many expectations from ourselves. We think, and this is from me, like I can see, like I was the worst. I was my worst enemy. And that's what Buddhism says, you're your worst enemy. And I think yeah, just stepping back. I think stepping back and simple things really, like, I don't think it's very complicated, but it is difficult. It's not easy. But if we say yes to ourselves, if we say it's okay, even if it's difficult, I will go through it, because it's not easy for me even right now. But I think I said okay to it. That's how.
Thank you. Your sharing is beautiful and so inspiring, just like you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say just a few words because maybe there is not enough time.
Antonella, can you put your video on if you don't
No,
mind,
I
please?
can't because I have a very, very little Wi-Fi, and if I
Okay,
put
okay,
the
okay,
video,
okay, okay. I'll
yeah,
introduce
there's
you
been,
later.
I've
Okay.
had
No, I
some
know who's
problems.
there.
Otherwise, I'll be very happy to. But I wanted to say, to tell her how extraordinary she is. I mean, extraordinary because for many reasons, some of which maybe she herself is not yet ready to accept. But because to me, it looks like the embodiment, her life has been like the embodiment of a real practitioner on the path. Now, maybe Buddhist, maybe non-Buddhist. Now, yes, I'm a Buddhist, but one could be following a different spiritual path. That every spiritual path ends up with the discovery that we are already perfect, isn't it? And all that has been, all the curtains along the way which hid this truth from us, we have to suffer to bring them down, burn them, do whatever, just to come to that. And she has also been very aware at every step that she was telling herself, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And I can't imagine how much courage it takes. Somehow all of us do that, but in much, I mean, I don't know about others, but like for myself, I do it I think I do it in a smaller way. I don't have that courage. So I keep telling me that I also have some good qualities. But she has been like fighting the dragon, I mean, she's really amazing because her not being good enough was almost the entirety of her self-image. And that's really like a little girl like that, with some difficulties from the beginning because of environment and all of that, who is being able today to see the tunnel to the light opening up in front of her is amazing. I just want to tell her that, look, you are extraordinary. Please, whether you accept it or not, I want you to hear that you are extraordinary, and that's all in my heart, and a lot of love to you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot.
Tripti ji,
Shweta.
you want to share?
Yeah. Shweta, like Shabnam, I'm also a crybaby. So I was trying not to get flooded in my own emotion. And I realized something just now, Shweta-Tara Katti, from all the Harry Potter books that you've been reading. You are a Harry Potter. You even have the scar.
I know, right? I often say that.
Is that not extraordinary? You are going to discover every single superpower that you already have, sweetie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know how to express what I felt when I was listening to you, because I don't know, it just felt so large and luminous. And I know it doesn't seem like that many times because the light is in our eyes and we can't see because the light is in our eyes.
Life has supported me very much. Really, like I think if we give life a chance, I think we can really see the beauty of it. And I think I'm slowly realizing that. Sometimes I'm even scared, like I don't want to lose this, because like sometimes we can get so caught up into our heads. I mean, so many thoughts, so many stories. And for me, life has been a blessing, really. Like I've been through difficult times. Yes, I've seen things, but I mean, where I've come at this point is, I don't know how I've come. This I really don't know. Like this, I really don't know. But I'm
think
grateful for it.
you were meant to be here right now at this very
Yeah.
minute. And I'm just going to be watching on the sidelines to see you metamorphose into the biggest version of yourself that you already are, actually. So thank you for sharing. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Shabnam.
Shweta, you said briefly in the middle that you realized that it was this illness that you were facing that became your guide. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah. I mean, I hated taking the meds, but it took me through a journey that no one could have taught me. And it really did become my guide. It really did become my path, because in the beginning I felt so low and I felt so horrible. And before that, I was not forced to take care of myself. Before that, literally, I would drink coffee and not eat lunch at times. So, and as I said, my nutrition was approval of others. It wasn't actual food. It really was. I thought of this morning, but it really was. But then late after the disease, I really had to, like, everything, my work, everything. I couldn't walk at some point. So I was bedridden. Then I had to be careful of my nutrition. Then I had to take care. And I went through a lot of emotional inside. Like, I think a lot of things started thinking about, because the projection of my image was falling apart slowly. No, not slowly. I just, like, literally, it did really fall apart. And then I was like, what have I been working on? Like, and since I had already started reading things about, little bit here and there, about Buddhism. So all of these things were there, like these little wisdom around the corners all the time. Through different people, they would come to me. And Robin has been, like, my greatest teacher in this. But because I was forced to take care of myself, I had to take good nutrition. I had to be careful of what I eat, what I don't eat. And then I could see the emotional trauma is all actually bringing, like, my body was going through a lot. I think that's when things started changing. Even then, it was not really changed. Like, I think things really started changing in December when the medicine was finished. But these little things, like every day I had to take the medicine, because I knew if I don't take them, I would die, or I'll have to go through even horrible treatment. And I was already feeling these horrible side effects, really bad side effects. A lot of anxiety, my nausea, a lot of, like, I had no energy to do anything, and I felt horrible about myself. And that's when the push came. And then I think I really began to look inside. Even then, I was still struggling a lot, resisting a lot. I still wanted to be someone who is being approved constantly, somebody who needs, it was there this whole time. It was only in last year around November or December but the work had been already going on, but it was just like this last bit that I had to get. That's when it all made sense, and that's where it all felt right in here. But yeah, like, it really, like, because I was forced to do yoga. I mean, not forced in, somebody else forced me, but I needed to take care of myself. Now I knew like what I needed to do. So it really came down to myself, because otherwise I was living this in a whole big image of trying to serve others, but actually not. It was just a portrayal of something that I wanted to become, of some worth, trying to find some worth, some value, because I felt I wasn't enough already, or I was not worthy already. So I really started questioning, and the teachings have helped me. Like these things have always been around me. This is what I mean. Like life has supported me. My therapist, I pay her my greatest. I mean, she's a grateful deity, but she's what she is because, you know, she needs to be like that. So yeah, she's helped me. She's guided me through, because she studies Buddhism and Hindu philosophy. So she really knows what she's talking about. So she's supported me throughout, really. And it has been people and others. I mean, I couldn't have done it on my own. People here, like, you know, the woman who supported me, she said one time, you know, Tara, when you suffer, your heart opens to other people who go through the same suffering. So just the perspective, just a little perspective changes a lot. Then every time I suffered, I thought of other people who suffered like me. Because before it was a very claustrophobic idea of I and me. And now it was expanding to others are also suffering like me. So it is funny, because we are attached to this I and me, and we want to be the special I and me who's suffering. But then it is making us suffering. But when we open, it supports us. That's when I feel like, okay, others are also suffering like that. I'm not the only one. So it supported me, and it is supporting me. It's going on like every day. Like I see as my suffering as purification of, and not in the sense of purification, in the sense of I'm learning something's changing within me. So the perspective changed, and it opens. It is difficult even now. Like sometimes only 2 days ago, I was going through something, and I felt so heavy. I couldn't do yoga, and I was just like, but then I was like, okay, now I don't do, or I do this much time. So these things slowly add to me now. Little, I mean, it's still not, you know, there, but it's just little things I think has helped me a lot, especially people, for sure. Yeah.
I would like to read out something right now from this Lama John Makransky Sustainable Compassion Training. Why I love it much. So here he says, often our experience of suffering makes us feel terribly isolated from others in our own pain. With this meditation, we learn to experience our painful feelings not as isolating us from others, but as connecting us to them, as compassionate solidarity with others. People all over the world experience hidden layers of suffering, like the suffering you experience. So I just wanted to share that.
I think that has helped me a lot, really. I think that has helped me.
Shweta, thank you so much for your time. But just before you go, there are a few comments here I would like to read to you. So Luna has said, you are so inspiring and I wish you so much love on your way, Shweta. It means a lot for me to have listened to you. And then Beatrice is saying, dear Shweta, love to listen to you. Thank you for your powerful inspiration. I'm thinking about these things a lot, also especially about your realization of relying on inner strength rather than outer approval. I wish you such a good time, love, blessings, and support on your path.
Thank you so much. You guys have been very kind to me, and I really hope we all find the support we need. And I think we do have. We already are really good people, and we are. So I hope we find it. And even I would like to say, even when we are not being good, even in our own definition, be okay with it. Be compassionate to that. Even when we think I'm not being okay with myself, be okay with that as well. Like I'm not okay with myself right now, because constantly we struggle with these things, and I think this struggle makes us suffer more. And I hope that we can be there for ourselves. Thank you so much. I go have lunch now.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with us with such openness and love. And thank you. See you
Thanks.
soon. Yeah.